Welcome, everybody, to my bloody podcast. Brand new episode, July 11th. It's blockbuster summertime. And I'm Brian Kluger, and I'm joined by the host with the most, the man who I love to live stream and dead stream with, Preston Barta. How are you, bud?
I'm good. I'm ready to dead stream for sure.
Let's dead stream this. But we have a special guest. We have a very amazing guest, a legendary, an intercontinental champion of film, direction, and horror, all the way from Utah. Coming in, the director of Deadstream, now on Shudder, Joseph Winter. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So happy to have you on here. We're going to talk about this film, Deadstream, which is out on Shudder, but it's coming to glorious Blu-ray Steelbook. It's chef's kiss. I'm so excited about it. And we're going to talk about this movie because everybody should see this movie. It's so good. Even if you don't like horror, you're going to like this movie. But let's start. Let's start at the very beginning, like in Sound of Music, shall we, Joseph?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Where did it all begin for you, Joseph, in film? Was it something that you watched on an old school TV at your parents' house where you're just like, holy shit, this is what my life is going to be like forever? Where did it all start?
So as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be involved in film in some capacity and just entertainment in general. And I think one of the contributing factors was the first 7 years of my life, I lived in Santa Monica. And we knew people that worked in some capacity in the industry. And so there was never a barrier that said that it wasn't possible. A lot of people that I know that are filmmakers, their parents were always saying, that's not really, you can't really make money doing this. But I could see that people were working in that industry. So from very early on, I wanted to do something there. But the first thing I saw that was really specific to me wanting to do something in horror was the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller. When we saw that, we rented it from Blockbuster, and I was watching them peel off the latex off of their faces, like in the makeup trailer or something. And I remember asking my parents what that was, and I had this feeling from that point forward that I wanted to be involved with something where I could get my hands on special effects or be around it somehow.
That is amazing. And I want to stand up and applaud you for that, because out of everybody I've talked to over the last decade and a half, nobody's ever mentioned the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller. And I'm going to say this, that is the best making of a behind the scenes movie music video ever. It's so good, right?
Yeah, of all time. No, it's the best.
That I'm so glad you brought that up. So that's what was did. Oh, I'm so excited about that. I need to go get I have the Thriller jacket, leather Jordache from the 80s upstairs. Like,
Really?
I do. I should have worn this. As you can see, Michael Jackson Thriller right here. There you go. That's amazing. And so you did this in school. Is this what you knew you always wanted to do from that? Like you was like, I'm going to be in this film production. I'm going to go to school for it. Is that what you did?
So we immediately moved to Orderville, Utah, which is population 700. There was no like arts really. So in school, I had the desire to do film things. I just knew I had to do it all on my own. So while I was in high school, I got into music, and I was going back and forth of like, which one do I focus on the most? But then in college, I went to a college that had some kind of a film program where you could do something. It was a community college. So I got my hands on some equipment that way, and I really loved it. And then I never looked back from there. And then I went to BYU in Provo to do like a more proper film school.
That's great. And when you were doing music, did you play any instruments? Were you in a band?
Yeah, I wanted to be in a band, but I could find people to play with just for short periods of time, just in an informal way. But I play the piano and the guitar. I started out playing the drums actually, so that was my first passion.
Sounds great. Do you remember the first song you learned to play on one of those instruments?
I remember the first song that I learned to play on purpose on the piano was John Carpenter's Halloween theme.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. That's one of the best ones, right? One of the best ones. Okay, so you're doing the music, you're doing the movies, you're in that, and then is it true that you were part of High School Musical too?
Oh yeah, how did you dig that up?
I asked a lot of people.
Yeah, when I lived in right after high school, I lived in St. George, Utah, going to college, and somebody called me up, knew that I played music, and said, "Do you want to be in High School Musical too?" I said yes, and I knew nothing about it, but it sounded fun. So I got to be the bass guitar player in 3 musical scenes where I'm just in the background pretending to play. Even though I was playing, it wasn't what you hear in
Right.
the song.
That's impressive. So High School Musical 2, then to VHS 99, and then now this big, amazing feature of Deadstream. And I just got to say for people out there, Deadstream, so you can go two ways with Deadstream. Is Deadstream a body of water or is Deadstream like live stream YouTube? It's the latter. And it's so great. It's basically a famous YouTuber live stream person who goes spend the night in a haunted house. And un- it's very difficult to walk a line with comedy and horror, but Joseph, you and Vanessa did it flawlessly, chef's kiss. I loved every bit of it. So please tell me, I know Preston's got some questions and he's going to get into it, but I got to know, was there a certain group of YouTubers, certain group or certain people live stream that you saw, you were watching their YouTube videos, you're like, hey, I need to do this into a movie?
No, so the first thing, we had the idea for Sean before we actually had specific influencers that we were referencing. But when we jumped into the research of it, the people that we really latched onto that we started to shape Sean from was PewDiePie and a guy he calls himself iDubbbz. And then there's this other guy that's less popular than those two, and his name is Houston Jones, and he's a bodybuilder that hurts himself on camera. And Houston had the larger than life persona where he talks really, really loud and really, really fast and talks about himself as being invincible in a really tongue-in-cheek way that we thought like, oh, this energy would be really fun as Sean. So we blended those together and threw in bits of me into the mix, and that's how we came up with the character.
Yeah, I actually was going to bring up the fact that I read that you originally saw this as a more of a comedic piece, and Vanessa, your creative and life partner, wanted to push the scare on it a little bit more. And in the marriage, as Brian just mentioned, like the marriage of those two genre pools is very seamless here. And I plan to bring up some examples, but this has me very curious about your separate interests as art consumers and creators. Like, what do Friday night movie events look like for you and Vanessa? Like, what's the compromise of the remote situation look like? And have you both picked up interest in each other's separate interests since being together?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think it's probably worth mentioning for your listeners that I co-wrote and co-directed this movie with my wife, Vanessa, and we conceived it together. And from the very beginning, we were just like pinging off of each other of like what this could be. And we had different influences growing up, but when we came together at film school, I was showing her stuff that really moved me. She was showing me stuff that moved her. And so we got on the shorthand with some of the movies we were referencing. And a big influence to us is the movie The Gate from
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
1987.
Steven Dorff. Yeah.
I love it tonally. I feel like it really captures everything that I love about just spookiness in general. So we wanted to capture that feeling in Deadstream. But so Vanessa and I chase a lot of when we make time to watch stuff, oftentimes we're driven by what's relevant, just trying to keep up with like all the stuff that's coming out, like shows and movies. But when there's no pressure to watch something, we almost always throw on some kind of either weird anime or horror movie that just sounds awesome to us, like something like The Gate or Night of the Comet or something maybe like Alien that we haven't seen for a long time. But we really like discovering new things that maybe aren't quite as mainstream. And so I think Shudder has actually been a good place to discover some.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So is there a scene in the making of this where you thought, wow, Vanessa really did something outside her comfort zone here. She really pulled a rabbit out of an unexpected hat, and vice versa for what she may have noticed in you. And because I'm not trying to like simplify it as like you're the comedy guy,
Yeah.
she's the horror person, and then but there has to be like something where you're like, that's more of her field of interest, but I flexed my muscles in that area that she's usually very great at.
Well, the thing that comes to my mind the most, it may not be exactly that, but with Vanessa early on, so I ran with this idea, and in my head, it had become something that was very different than hers for a while, where I imagined it being a boredom movie where this guy is in this house and it's like over 10 hours, like it's overnight, and the movie just, it's not live. Like he's live streaming, but the movie's an edit of what he did, and it just shows him being bored, and then toward the end things start picking up, and then it kind of ends the same way. But she came in and said, no, it has to be real time. We have to show front to back the broadcast. I was super resistant to that because I felt like I had all these babies in my brain that were around the boredom part of the movie, like taking place all night long. And I didn't think that you could actually tell a story in 80 or 90 minutes front to back this one. But she was absolutely right to push for that because the movie now is so much better and more compelling than it otherwise would have been. And I couldn't see it at the time. And it was, so I give her the credit for what it is. Like that's like the DNA of the movie now. And I don't think it would have worked at all without that big push. Another thing creatively is Vanessa and I, Vanessa's very funny. And she wrote tons of jokes. We were going back and forth with jokes. We had to prune a lot of jokes before the shoot, during the shoot. And it was always like this tug of war sometimes of like which precious joke wouldn't get cut or should get cut. And so that was a fun thing. It's like seeing her personality, what she was fighting for, and my personality and what I was fighting for. And I probably shouldn't say like the bits that were hers or mine, but there was like just back and forth on all of that all the way through.
Well, can I go ahead and put you on the spot and ask who came up with "I'm coming to get you," followed by "ouch"?
Hold on, I'm coming to get you. What's that? What?
It's the scene where Sean's going down the stairs and his terrorizers.
Mildred falling down the stairs. I'm coming to get you.
Yeah, yeah.
So that has an interesting. So the reason I barely remember that is because it barely made it into the movie through ADR. He had this patch where it was supposed to feel like Mildred was on his heels the whole time and that she fell down the stairs. And the feedback we kept getting was no one can tell she's falling down the stairs. They hear this sound, but they can't tell that's what's happening. So we tried to add that line to make it sound like she gets cut off and falls. And I'm pretty positive that was Vanessa's hack to try to make it work. And honestly, still, most people don't discern that from the sound mix. And so that's why I was like a little bit surprised it couldn't place where it was.
Oh yeah, I'm a very meticulous film watcher, and when I'm trying to sniff out the comedy in every moment, and so that was a really brilliant part. So kudos to Vanessa on that.
I'll let her know.
It was great, and I just love this character you created, Sean, because what I love about this character so much, I mean, Sean is flawed, but everybody's flawed. And in this current climate of YouTubers and live streamers and influencers, I love that you incorporated, oh God, it's so goddamn good, that no matter what happens to him, he's facing death. People are trying to murder him, and he's still in the influencer streaming zone by even naming his camera Mildred Cam, but then erasing it and saying Mildred camera. And I was like, he's still doing it for the gram, basically. And I love that he stuck with it. Was that like the goal all on, or did your character take on a whole type of front of its own while you were making it?
So Sean went through different iterations for sure. He started off as this super sincere dude that you just liked seeing get scared, but he had really good intentions. It wasn't until there was a big public PewDiePie thing that happened where he started getting canceled and there was a lot of backlash that and this was years before we ever made the movie. This was a long time in the making. But we decided to add that edge to Sean of being someone who is really controversial and people that watch him may not even like him. And the thing that we wanted to drive him all the way to the end was his refusal to stop performing, to stop playing to his audience. But we also were really self-conscious about it because we wondered if it's so absurd, like the things that he does where the stakes are so high and he'll take a moment to gloat and did you see that internet? He'll say something like that. We'd like, I don't think people are gonna buy that. But we went for it anyway. And fortunately, most people feel like it's fine for the tone of the movie. It works.
I just love it. It does work. And I love that having that flawed character because I would relate to it more. You know, I don't need somebody that's, you know, squeaky clean. I like this because it felt more realistic. And he's trying to win over his audience, but I love that element. Thank you very much for that. And I really enjoy that you have to watch this movie multiple times because I as you can see, I wrote down pages of stuff that I just thought was amazing. And the comments that you have up during the live stream are glorious. And was that something you and Vanessa wrote the comments in, or is that a group of people, or was that AI? What was going on with that?
Yeah, like how much do you think about the multiple viewings that people will have? Like I'm writing this for the third viewing person.
We ended up becoming obsessed with the multiple viewings aspect of it. I just realized I'm on the wrong microphone. Tell me if this is gloriously better. Hang on. What does this sound like?
Oh, crisp.
Crisp and clear. Yes.
Awesome. I'm so sorry about that.
Thank you, Mildred.
So with the comments, we wanted the internet to be a personality through the whole movie. I mean, a character by itself. So in the first drafts, we wrote, we would call out top comments, like comments that we for sure wanted to see him interact with. But you couldn't like just keep putting those in the script except for when he interacts, like when Sean talks to the internet or something. And then when it came time for populating the screen with those, we took those comments from the script, made a few others of the top voted ones that you for sure are supposed to read. And then our producing partner, Jared Cook, who also was the DP on it, he wrote over 1,000 comments as just filler. But he got out of hand with this. He wrote so many layers to it that there's like a Romeo and Juliet story where they meet in the comments to commenters, they fall in love, and then they get engaged by the end of the movie. And just a lot of like really interesting and funny things that I had missed throughout the edit. And then like when I was going to screenings, I would see some of them just scrolling really fast and I'd start laughing out loud. So a lot of like those, all the 1,000 of those was Jared Cook.
Wow. Yeah. I was about to say, like, I can't imagine what it's like to be all knowing when it comes to like comment sections and threads, but also like it's apparent that you're also in touch with like the dialogue that horror audiences have when they go to see a horror movie, that it's nothing new that when somebody's watching a horror movie, oftentimes to kind of ease the tension, they're making jokes or they're having a dialogue. Don't go in there, don't do that. And there is literally a moment in here where it comes to a secret room and then say, oh, that would be so stupid to go down there, but yet you go down there. So it kind of makes those actions very understood. So I'm just curious about like that sort of thing of like being ahead of the audience, kind of knowing like what people may challenge along the way, but having fun with it too.
So we try to use that format and the tone of our movie to kind
kind of defang critics ahead of time. We try to preempt holes in the movie, which there are lots, and logical fallacies that we would either call out in the comments. So someone would say, like, wait, this makes no sense at all. Like someone would call out some mythology hole in the comments, which is like, we're aware it doesn't fully make sense, but we want to have fun with it anyway. We want to act like the internet would be aware and be making fun of that aspect. But also Sean, being Sean, allowed us to have him say things out loud that would be like, no rational person would choose to do this, but he can call it what it is, which is really stupid, but he's going to do it anyway for the views or something like that. So we really try to use that to fix, like, kind of like advertise, hey, we're aware of some of the problems in this movie, and hopefully this makes it a little bit more palatable.
It worked so well, just like the things that you were saying that he said, you know, like the line "suck on that Huffington Post," you know, like that killed me.
The
I was
only
like,
person, by the way, who has ever mentioned that line.
God damn, it's so, like, I rewound that and then played it again for even a bigger laugh, because I was like, yes. It was so good. And like, even, you know, just like the little comments of like, oh, he looks like a rabbi, and I'm just like, man, this is like getting all the Reddit and all like all these things that you would see in real life on like a live stream game or something like that. I loved it. It really was genius. And bringing to genius editing was genius too of this movie, of having to go back and forth from kind of like a live found footage type of movie with the different cameras and hooking up a camera and finding creative ways to utilize those smaller pieces of equipment. Was that a challenge for you when y'all were there shooting it? And how did you accomplish that? Was it something like, you know, you show up on set and it was like, okay, I'm in the zone, we're doing this, or is this something meticulously mapped out beforehand?
It was meticulous, and it was a problem from the moment we thought of it all the way till the movie was released, till we delivered it. Because in conception, there was the idea, first it was, how do we get to Evil Dead 2 tone and kinetic camera movement that feels really awesome within the story? How do we get to that with found footage format? How do we justify moving cameras in that kind of way? And so then it was like, well, Vanessa and I don't have that technical expertise as far as like how we would bring that all together. Then we partnered with Jared Cook, who knew a lot of like he's just really good with tech. So he helped us build the infrastructure, like what Sean's wearing, how we could actually pull this off. And it was a very long, intense testing process to figure out what cameras would work for this. But then on set, the cameras that we're using, they're not made to make feature-length movies with, and you can't rely on them. There's no live feed. They're supposed to be, but there really isn't. And you'd have to reshoot all the time. The gimbal would go crazy. And the way we were shooting it, it wasn't very forgiving, because you would think a live stream thing, if it goes out of frame, like something goes off, you can just embrace that. But we really couldn't, because in our movie, Sean is he's promising you the most cinematic experience in live streaming, and it's shot that way. So when we would have something where the frame was like significantly off, we'd have to reshoot it because it was such a distraction in the movie. So basically it was a pain all the way to the end. But I think that all that effort that Jared put into it and all that time, I'm really grateful for it, because I feel like it allowed us to really do that Evil Dead 2 kind of visual style in something that I didn't know if that was going to be possible for us.
Got it written down, Evil Dead.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. On top of having like a tape player play the score and then commenting dramatic push in, things like that.
Yeah,
But
that synth score was awesome.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Before Brian gets to his final question, serious question, what's the scariest thing about the movie Ghost Dad?
That's written in my notes too.
What's funny is I thought that was a really funny joke, and I literally remember nothing but, I think, a car accident from the movie. I saw it right when it came out. So I don't even remember the movie.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I was going to say,
I've
Brian, you probably know more about it than
the
any.
ghost dad, right? I'm trying to think of the scariest moments, like when the little kid's locked up and he can't get out. I don't know. But two quick questions. So the first question, the house you shot at, the haunted house you shot at, was that a real house? Did you shoot on location, and was it actually haunted?
It was shot on location. Yes, it's haunted. It was a house that has local lore to it. We shot it 30 minutes from where I live here in Utah, and it was an old pioneer house when they first settled the area. And it's been abandoned for a really long time, since the late 30s. And there's a lot of local legend around people that have died there and spirits that people have either seen or felt. And I was super skeptical of it, and I still am, to be honest. However, our crew members were all about it. Like, they were like, I'm not going to go in this room anymore. Like, it was for real. There were parts of the house that they wouldn't go in alone, or certain people wouldn't go in at all by the end. So that was really weird, making a haunted house movie in a actual reportedly haunted house.
Oh, that's scary as hell.
We actually have a whole bonus feature on it that's just about the lore of the house, and it's like a 3-minute video about like what they say actually happened in that house, and then you hear the crew members' voices telling you stories that happened on set.
Wow.
That's super cool. And I would imagine, since this is getting like a big Blu-ray steelbook, did you have any say in like, we got to do a steelbook, we got to do the artwork, we got to do the extras? Is that something you?
So no, we got a say in. There wasn't. It was such a small movie that we were grateful for anything that came our way. So any opportunity, they told us we were getting DVD only. We were happy. We were sad that there was no Blu-ray, but we were happy that it was getting a physical release. That was a huge triumph for us. But then they told us there was a Blu-ray, and then they told us there was a steelbook. And so then we got really excited, and we went all in with the bonus features, particularly Jared, the producer. He started making them, and he spent like 6 weeks of his time just pumping some of these out. But that was not because they told us we needed to or anything. We just wanted to share the experiences that we had with people. We also learned so much in the production because it was a very do-it-yourself with a small team. I mean, like, it was a very guerrilla, and lots of it guerrilla style filmmaking, self-financed, and we learned so much along the way that we wanted to share with other people who may have an idea like this or may want to get a small movie off the ground. So the disc that we're putting out, the features are geared toward creative people who are thinking about maybe going after a project. We just try to like open the hood and let people see what went into it.
All right. That's amazing. And the final question, I know we can talk for another hour and a half with you, and I hope we get the chance to have you and Vanessa on the show again, because we have lots to talk about. But the last question, it's obvious from this movie, from Deadstream, there's so many great references to other films that you're a cinematic aficionado. That being said, are there any particular scenes in movies that have always stuck out to you that help shape you creatively?
Yes. 2 things come to mind. I mentioned The Gate earlier. The Gate influenced my whole worldview when it comes to art. And there's a scene in the movie where some scary things are happening, and the phone rings. Like, a kid answers the phone, and they hear their dad's voice say, "You've been bad." And then the phone catches up. "Oh, you've got it. You've got it." I've got that too on my shelf. I love it so much. And that particular, the way his voice sounds, I saw it at such an early age. I've been chasing that sound. It's a very particular, scary, like, voice starts getting altered. And so that's influenced me a lot. And another thing that comes to my mind is in Creepshow, the Father's Day segment, and the music that happens when the hand comes out of the grave in that segment. That sound cue and imagery has also been a big influence on my work.
Oh, love it. Love those references. Love those scenes. Yeah, you could watch The Gate. It's on Vestron Video Blu-ray. You could watch Creepshow, just out on Scream Factory 4K. And of course, please watch Deadstream. You could watch it on Shudder, or you could buy that Blu-ray Steelbook. Buy that Blu-ray Steelbook. I promise you, this will be one of your like underrated favorites of the year. Like, it's gonna be in that top 10, and it's so great. And please, Joseph, thank you. Do you want to tell anybody, spotlight's on you? You want to tell anybody where they can find you and your work?
Oh yeah, I'm on most socials at Joseph Winter VHS, and Vanessa is at Vanessa M Winter.
Awesome. And you say VHS, our Preston is a big VHS collector. He has a pretty impressive collection of VHS still.
I would like to do an episode with you guys where I just ask about what's in Preston's background, and we just go item by item.
We can do that. We would love to have you on.
Yeah.
That would
Sorry,
be.
I was like searching through my phone because I did an interview, and the director is escaping my name, but it's an IFC film, and it does the exact effect that you were talking about in The Gate, where it's like an auditory feeling. And I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna email it over to you.
Please do, because I'm all about that, and I'd love to hear and see more of that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. You set out to make a critic-proof film, and these are two critics who absolutely loved it. So we'd love to have you on again, and just thank you so incredibly much. We look forward to what you do from here.
Thanks so much, guys, for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. We would love to have you on again.
Yeah, I'd love to come on. I'm sure Vanessa would too.
Perfect. We'll do it.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.